3, 2, 1, go. Welcome back, everybody, to the Strategy Sprints podcast. I'm your host, Simon Severino, and my guest today is a leader in the field of change, helping driven corporate professionals to find success and well-being in their whole life. She helps leaders rethink the way they lead by bringing Eastern and Western practices in service of transforming lives. She has developed a proven methodology to help leaders get unstuck from old patterns to achieve the success they desire whilst experiencing a better quality of life. Welcome, everybody. Deepa Natarajan.
Hello, how are you doing? Thank you so much for inviting me.
So cool to have you here. And we will talk today why clarity is the number one factor, and we will see which kind of clarity and how to get there. But first, what are you currently creating?
Well, I am currently helping and working with lots of leaders in the corporate industry and also with lots of leaders in the corporate industry who are wanting to step out and start something on their own. So I'm on this mission to help people bring that sense of mental clarity, the clarity in the mind that I want to go in one direction, but then I seem to be acting in a completely opposite direction, or I'm not going at the speed at which I want to in the direction of my goals. So that's exactly what I'm doing right now.
And who are typical people that work with you?
So I work with a lot of people who are highly driven. And when I say highly driven, are usually top performers, usually people who are very motivated and very driven. And when I say driven, you might ask me, like, what are those qualities of a highly driven person? What have I seen? And from my research, what I've noticed is highly driven people, what I call them, are people who are very action oriented, who like to get things done, who like to solve problems, who like to be perfectionists, who have that zest for the quality of work that needs to be done, and very focused on the future, wanting to get things in place. That's the kind of driven people that I'm talking about.
And what have you recently changed your mind about?
I think I have changed my mind about how I want to live. Before COVID, I used to be taking flights 3 times a month, working a lot, working 6 days a week. I love my job. And at the same time, that definition of how I want to live and how I want to work has changed for me.
Yeah. How did you make the shift from flying to non-flying?
Virtual world, right? Like this one, like you went from a weekly podcast to a daily podcasting. I went from doing live workshop, face-to-face workshops, to doing it remotely. And then I even stopped doing those remote workshops for a certain period of time in order to build a system and a process. And you can see maybe on the other side, some of my workbooks are present. So I put in place a methodology where people can actually go through a transformation, and I built in place a very systemic method that is guaranteed to bring you that mindset shift and that behavioral shift that people are looking for.
Powerful. Can you walk us through the basic phases of your methodology?
Sure. Well, I think the number one thing is it starts with well, I'm someone who needs to make decisions. Like, the person who has a problem, like, I need to make decisions, but I'm not making decisions, or I know I need to delegate, but I'm not delegating fast enough. I know I need to kind of relinquish control, but I'm not doing that. And I think as business owners, as entrepreneurs, as leaders, like, there are lots of things we want to do in order to get our business, in order to perform at a certain level. But then what gets in the way is that we're not able to do it. It's like going to the gym. I want to go to the gym 3 times a week, or I want to be running every single day, but I'm not. What's going on? Why am I not able to do that, even though I have a very strong desire for it? So yes, you need a strong desire, but the number one thing is to stop and see how big that desire is. And is it resonant to who I am? Is it resonant to what is it that I'm here to do in my life? And then figuring out, like, what are those mental patterns? Like, how have I been functioning And I can talk about this for the next half an hour. So you've got to stop me, okay? So understanding our mental patterns, understanding how we're functioning, that is the number one key to actually get started on this path.
Because many right now go, oh yeah, I want to know how I'm functioning, and how can they do that?
Sure. If I want to give you one single tip, and you ask, right, like, what's that one single tip that I can go and apply immediately? So I can give you an example. Like when I started off podcasting, right, I recorded 5 episodes, and then it took me like 3 months to launch 5 episodes. Like, why 3 months when technology is like right here in front of us? And on Fever, you can get 5 words, or you can get someone to edit the podcast for you very quickly in about 24 hours. And I took like 3 months to get those podcasts out. So, we have an intention to do something, but we don't realize that our mind is actually sabotaging us, telling me that, oh my God, if my voice doesn't sound right, or if the quality of this episode is not good enough, what happens? Like, will I fail? Will I lose the business that I already have? Like, how will people see me? I'm putting myself out there in public. Will I fail publicly? So all these things are like playing at a very subconscious level, and I wasn't able to see that. And so one tip I'm saying that is, I went and asked 5 people, if I want to get my podcast out, like other than me waking up at 5 o'clock and trying to put some small little things in place, what is it that's going to help me? And one of the feedbacks that I got was very strong. It said, do difficult things first. And that's when I realized I kept doing all the easy things to get the website up and ready, to go around changing the colors of the website, go around changing the text of the website, to launch everything. But I wasn't doing the difficult thing. So why? Because I was afraid to fail. And so my suggestion would be, like, the one tip that would get you started off very quickly would be, go and ask 5 people, like, what's that behavior you need to change if you want to be successful on the mission that's most important to you.
Like it. And I'm also very curious who you nominate for the strategy award after one word from our sponsors.
Hey, if you love what you are hearing, you will love our free masterclasses. Go grab them at strategysprints.com.
When everybody zigs, this person is zagging. But from your perspective, this person is doing the right thing. Who do you pick?
I pick Mary Henderson. So if you've seen her, she's very present on LinkedIn. I'd pick Mary Henderson because she's very, very authentic. She knows exactly what's personal branding. And she's, I would say, the queen of personal branding.
And what are 3 books that shaped you most?
The number one is Dare to Lead by Brené Brown. And then the second book is The 4 Agreements. And the third book is Immunity to Change by Robert Keegan.
What touched you most about these books?
What's touched me most is, what is courage? And courage is not about saying, I'm tired, I'm weak, I'm overworked, I'm overwhelmed. Like, that is courage, sorry. Courage is not pretending to be strong and showing up and armoring yourself that everything is fine and that you can manage everything on your own. Courage is getting out of our cave when we feel most down and when we isolate ourselves.
And when you look at your podcast and your business right now, what are you most excited about?
It's a good question. What am I most excited about? I'm excited every single day because I get to get inside people's brain and see how it functions. I get to like help people figure out simple things. And it's funny because, like, people come for a session and then they go like, okay, I've been struggling with this for the last 3 years, help me out. And then we sign up for like 10 sessions and we say, okay, let's, do the 70-day program so that I can change my habitual patterns and ways of working. And it's funny, in about 15 to 20 days, people make remarkable changes and they're surprised down 6 months down the line that it's still sustainable. So I'm just very excited every single day to meet new people, to see how everybody thinks differently. It's almost like traveling for me now.
And you have your sessions via Zoom. Is there anything they do in between? How do they show you their implementation in between?
So we have sessions. So basically, when people come into the 70-day program to change their behaviors, to shift their mindset so that they can have the right mindset to reach the goals that they're aspiring to do, uh, we meet every single week. We meet once a week, and they have the workbooks and they have the platform. So they do the exercises in the platforms. I get to communicate with them through the platform. So, it's a very tightly packed system that's in place. It's not just like, hey, let's have a coaching conversations, help me figure out, and let me have an aha, and then I have an aha moment, and then I'll go put something in place or not. And whereas this is something more holistic, because we need to create a strategic action plan for people to change, which is based on my physical body. Because like when I'm stressed, when I need to get out of my comfort zone, I need to know where does the stress locate in my physical body. I need to know how this goal is connected to my spiritual soul. I need to know what kind of mental patterns I need to change. I need to have a plan which takes care of my emotions on a day-to-day basis. So it's a very holistic model that's based on, the mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual being.
Wow, powerful. Can you share one example of a blockage that was mental and how you found the link to the spiritual, to the emotional?
Sure. Yeah. So one of my clients, let's just call her Sophie, so that makes it easier. So Sophie, when she came in, she was a workaholic. She loved her work. She set herself up for high expectations, and she was someone who was the breadwinner for the family. She was the main breadwinner for the family, and she had health issues. She recovered from those health issues. She came back to work. She found herself working the same patterns. She did a leadership program. It didn't help her, and then she and I started working together on this program. 3 weeks down the program, she started delegating massively, and something just shifted completely because she started to understand how she's functioning, and she started to understand and see at a subconscious level what has been driving her to the behaviors that she was. And she started to delegate more, and she saw that, wow, she could take the foot off the pedal. And then, the change that you never make the change in isolation. She also had to make the change in terms of her relationships with people, asking her husband to support her, having that conversation with her husband, like, what if I quit my job? How are we going to support the family? How are we going to get on to the next phase? Me taking that risk of being an entrepreneur, and you also taking the risk of being an entrepreneur at the same time. How do we do that? And learning to hold those difficult conversations. So, one is like, I change, but every time I change, my ecosystem of relationships around me are also going to change. And that is when change becomes sustainable, and change can actually be scaled at different levels. And so when we put in place an action plan, it is for her, she's someone who minimizes her needs. So understanding that she's someone who's minimizing her needs and always looking out for the other person, the idea was to start looking at what am I feeling in the morning, in the afternoon, what are my needs, writing it down in the journal. And then we have music therapy that helps people to actually connect and be present more with themselves. And so for every person, the physical exercise is very different because we are blocked in different places. Like, when I get stressed, it's my throat. And for you, you might be say, oh no, Deepa, for me, it's in my stomach, or, it's in my back or in my shoulders. Like, we feel that in different places in our body. And how do you release that tension? Like, that's very particular to the person, if that's the right way to say that in English. So that's very unique to each person, and identifying that for her. And then spirituality is not, let's not confuse this with religion, but her space of feeling united, feeling a part of the universe, was to be in front of the sea. So spending more time at the sea, taking deliberate amount of time during the change to actually incorporate that. Let me go near the sea and stay there for a few days, journal from there. helps to actually shift the system. So you've got to have an action plan that's taking care of the mental, the physical, emotional, and the spiritual being.
You inspired me to think about where is stress in my body. I never actually intentionally thought about it. And so this is interesting for everybody listening. Where is stress located in your body? Where does it show up? What gets tense? And taking care of it like directly in the evening, because everybody listening here is a business owner and they are very stressed. Most of them have kids. They have enough stress in their day. So would you recommend being aware of where the body gets tense and giving that part attention every day?
I would recommend first becoming aware of the emotion, because basically what gets locked in the physical body is the emotion, is the uncatered emotion, the anger, the frustration, the irritation. That is what gets locked in the body. And so the minute we become aware that this is what is deeply getting me upset, or what is that emotion, identifying it and paying attention to it is the most important. Because today we've got so many numbing techniques. Like, we feel slightly uncomfortable, we reach out to LinkedIn, Facebook, what's going on, social media, or we switch on the television, or we go have a glass of wine, or we start picking up the phone and talking to people, or going out for a run. So the question is, it's not bad to go out for a run, but why are you running is the question. Are you running to numb the pain, to not feel the disappointment, or are you really running because running is a pleasure to you?
And so
Yeah, so
emotion first.
identifying like what is it that's getting me upset, that's the most important thing. Yeah.
And now I localize the emotion. For example, today after one specific Zoom call, I was angry. I was like, why did this guy waste my time, 15 minutes of my life? And I was angry. So if we can locate the emotion and say, okay, I'm angry right now, we should sit with it, right? Not jump
Exactly.
off to LinkedIn or any drug.
Stay with that anger. Stay with the anger. If you have a balcony, if you're staying in an apartment, go stand at the balcony and look at the sky and sit with and be with that anger for next 10 minutes and say, okay, this is what is getting me angry. This is what I'm upset about. Talk to your anger about, like, have that internal conversation. Look at it, because the more we run away from it, the more it is going to stay.
That's powerful. And so this is one of the many tools that is in your program, right?
Exactly. I can talk for 2 days about this subject. So it's taken me years to get to this research and then put this complete methodology, because, change is so hard for people, right? Like, so many people, we all want to change, and change is one thing that's constant. There's so many things as a business owner, right? Especially as a solopreneur, like when you start off, right? There's so many things to look after. Looking after finance, you're looking after strategy, you're looking after day-to-day operations, your client satisfaction. There's so many jigsaw puzzles that you're looking at. And so having that sense of clarity and knowing how my mind is getting in the way is super important. Yeah.
Because ultimately, our mind is the foundation for everything we do, but also the limit, right?
Absolutely.
And tell us a little bit. So in the last weeks of your program, when people have a mindset of abundance and of success, how does that impact their business, their life?
When you have a mindset of abundance and success and you're on a positive roll, number one, suddenly it's like a world of coincidence start to follow. And I say a world of coincidences. Basically, because your mind opened up, suddenly you become this magnet that's attracting your clients. And so, as against, I'm pushing and I'm struggling and I'm pushing and I'm trying to make the sale, I'm trying to grow my business. As against that, suddenly you become this calm and composed magnet that starts to attract business. And it's not some that you go through and, exciting, wow, I'm so happy, I'm celebrating. No, it's a state of like a very peaceful state of flow where, you see things with clarity, and things become very relative in terms of life and business. Yeah, that's the experience.
That sounds good. And today I was reading Epictetus, who says, align your will with the events outside. So the more you can align what's happening with what you wish and strive for, the better you are off. How can, and I was thinking, how can we do that more? Like aligning the events, what's happening with what we wish, with our goals. It sounds like in this calm state, it happens. It's this magnetism that you just described.
Yeah.
If we are far away from it, like we will always wish for stuff that is very far away,
Yeah.
how can we get more into attunement, alignment?
Right. It's a very good question. And so this is always a push and a pull scenario. So let me explain that. So sometimes we keep pushing and pushing and pushing and going towards what we want and trying to get that, right? And because we're actually pushing to get that, right? But sometimes when you keep pushing and you see that your efforts are not rewarded and the stars are not aligned, the world is not being receptive and things are not flowing, perhaps it's time to stop and listen. Perhaps the timing is not right. And so one of the key elements in the program is called presence. And presence is your capacity to love. And when I say it's that capacity to love, the capacity to love helps us to actually be connected to everything that is around us. Yeah. And when you start to have open that capacity to love, to be connected to everything and have empathy for things around us, you start listening deeply to what's happening in the universe and your ecosystem around you. And then you start to say, okay, now I need to pull back. Right. And so you can't keep pushing, pushing, pushing all the time. You got to listen, stop, see it's not working, and pull back. And the minute you start pulling back, that's when things start to happen. So it's this constant dance of movement of pushing and pulling.
Beautiful. Balancing push and pull. And if we realize that it's not working, then instead of speeding up, slowing down, becoming more receptive and more loving.
Exactly. You know what I do as a practice is very simple. I have a forest which is 5 minutes away from my house, and I just go out and talk to the trees around there. When you sometimes get out of, like when you're snorkeling, right? You've got these glasses on, you're looking at all the fish below, and you're lost under the water. Right. That's what happens when we're stuck in our room, constantly trying to push and get our business going. But then when you get your head out of the water and you suddenly see, oh my God, where am I? And that's how I feel when I go to the forest to go for a walk. It's like I start to see like what's happening in the world, and I start to listen, and I start to connect the dots. And that doesn't happen automatically in 5 or 10 minutes of going to the forest, right? And if you say, okay, I'm going to go to the forest with this expectation of I'm going to connect the dots, it's not going to happen. So you're going to let go of that expectation, right? And just take time to connect with nature or whatever it is that, helps you to connect to a higher self of being, a higher state. And that's when you stop pushing and you start connecting the dots. And that's
Beautiful.
strategic, right?
Yeah. And I think this is what running does for me, because I run only in nature and it's a full hour, because I think around 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 45 minutes, that's when this state kicks in.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about who should be enrolling for your coaching program and who should not enroll because it's not for them.
So I would say if you're not willing to change or challenge, if you're not willing to challenge your habitual patterns, then this is not for you. I challenge people a lot. The program is, I wouldn't say challenging, a bit maybe. It challenges your paradigms. It challenges the way you think. It helps you to reshift and rethink the way you lead. So it's definitely not for people who are not willing to challenge their way of thinking. And it's for people who are highly driven, who are highly motivated, and who have a very strong desire to get somewhere. Yeah. If you don't have a strong desire to get somewhere and you're like happy in comfort zone, then this program is not for you. Yeah.
And where should they go to find you?
Oh, simple. Just head over to meetmypotential.com or connect with me on LinkedIn. My handle is pretty much the same as my first name and last name, Deepa Natarajan. So happy to meet new people, talk to new people.
And who should be my next guest?
I would say Nathalie Doremieux.
Why?
Okay, so Nathalie Doremieux is someone who's very energetic, very motivated, and very inspiring. And I've had lots of conversations with her, and every time I have a conversation with her, I come out inspired with lots of new ideas. And she's always bubbly, sparkly, and I don't know where she gets her energy from. So yeah, I think she'd be a good person to, if you're looking for that spark of enthusiasm, for that spark of idea. Yeah, that's her.
Super cool. Thank you so much, Deepa, for sharing your journey, your wisdom with us. And people go to her coaching program. It's powerful. Thank you so much. Please come back soon.
Thank you.
Avoid trying to do thousands of things that doesn't work. We have 274 templates for your business success. Reach your ambitious goals with one-on-one sprint coach. We double your revenue